Ooh, baby, I like it raw. Yeah, baby, I like it raw. Ooh, baby, I like it raw. Yeah, baby, I like it raw.
Alright.
Okay. Alright, welcome everybody. This is the Iron Sharpens Iron podcast. On this show, I'm going to be talking about all kinds of things that interest me, things that I think that'll improve humanity, mainly for men, but not only for men. We're going to be talking about spirituality, physical health, mental health, mind, body, soul, business, creativity, arts, music, everything that basically can uplift us as humans and make this world a better place. And I have a special guest here, the first time, a man called Kyoshi. He's an artist, a fellow Renaissance man, and yeah, we're just gonna dive right into it. So, how you doing, bro?
Amazing. Every day. Thank
Yes,
you.
sir.
And thanks for having me. I appreciate it.
Yeah, it's my honor, man. And yeah, we just met recently, and you know, I always say we're always in the right place at the right time. And you just started your podcast. What's it called again?
This one's going to be for the partnered podcast in North Park
Yeah.
at Visual Art Supply Store. That's going to be Meatloaf and Banana Bread podcast.
Meatloaf and Banana Bread.
Yeah.
That's an interesting name.
That's the one that we've already started on. And then I'm going to be having more of my own independent project, which is going to be the New Earth Architects podcast. And that podcast will have a bit more gravity in that, a little bit more serious natured information as opposed to the other one that will be a little bit more tongue-in-cheek and have some humor and pop zeitgeist kind of stuff introduced into it.
Awesome.
Yeah.
I hate humor.
Yeah, right? Oops.
Yeah, we got some effects here.
Okay.
Can't hear it. I don't know what I pressed, but hey, we live and learn. I hope it stopped. I gotta check this. Sorry, guys. This is a new
you're
podcast,
good.
and
Oh yeah, you should test the
doing.
cans to see what kind of sound we
Yeah.
have internal. Yeah.
Alright. I'm just not gonna touch those buttons.
All right.
Alright, guys. So, like I said, we
Post.
involve some humor because, yeah, humor is, you know, I believe that life is meant for joy and happiness, you know, and if you don't have a sense of humor, then this thing gets a little tricky and hard, you know.
Absolutely.
So, yeah. So, awesome to have you here.
Thanks again.
And like I said, this is my first podcast, so I'm a little bit excited, but staying connected to my breathing.
There you go.
And we have a producer here in the house.
Thank you so much.
Thank you for the assistance, really.
My pleasure.
What's your name? Sorry again.
Lamia.
Lamia.
Yes.
All right, we have Lamia here in the studio. We're gonna edit that in somehow, or maybe
Or
not.
not.
But thank you for being here with us, Lamia.
Thank you.
And yeah, so I got a men's group. I do all kinds of things. I got Juggle Media, my marketing company,
Awesome.
and I have a men's group, and I make music. And I wanted to start this podcast, and I didn't really know where I'm gonna take this, you know. And I figured that the name of the men's group, Iron Sharpens Iron, is the way to go because I'm a father. I have a son, and I see that women have plenty of support systems and books and programs and TV shows to help them, and there's not so much resources for men. And all these topics I talk about, they're pretty masculine, you know, like productivity and business and health and mental health. So yeah, we're all teaching each other, each one teach one, as they say.
Right.
And yeah, so let's get into it, man.
Okay.
All right, so this wasn't from what I planned, but who is the greatest teacher that you've had? Who's the first teacher that comes to mind when I ask you that question? Because I know we all have lots of teachers in our life.
Probably Mr. Miyagi. So it's a fictional
Yes.
teacher here, and that might be because a romanticization of that sort of that type of figure, and I didn't necessarily get that from my dad, right? So that, and I have a lot of siblings, so that sort of one-on-one influence wasn't really nurtured as much. So I went out into my imagination, right, of things that interested me as a martial artist, as a young kid who liked things like that. And I'm part Japanese, so maybe there was an identifying factor, right? And it's an interesting thing about that too, because that movie and that persona in that movie had as much to do with learning as it did with teaching. Mm-hmm. And to sort of see that from a young age and understanding that they're essentially so connected was an important thing for me moving forward. It's sort of profound at like 5 or 6 years old, you know?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So you were 1984, or were you born?
I'm born 1980. I'm 40.
Oh, you're older than me. Okay, so I'm Daniel's son. You know?
Daniel's son. Yeah.
I went to karate 10 years because of that movie.
Right.
You know, so
there you go.
I'm really happy to hear you say that. Yeah, for real. And what about in the real world?
In the real world, I'd say a lot of authors, right? So I know that sounds sort of, I don't know, maybe sort of passe insofar as dealing with like reality, but with other humans, not even just men, but people in general, I didn't always have ease of attachment to, right? Like I sort of saw my scope and my view and the lens that I had growing up was just a little bit different insofar as just sort of my detachment and trust in people. So I didn't see anyone that I could really identify with, you know, in real life much going on. I'd say that it ended up taking more of an institutional type structure before I could sort of hone the things that we at least sort of maybe stereotypically or perceptively say are masculine, right? Or have to do with some kind of growth in that realm. So that will be the military, right? So I was in the Navy for 6 years, and that's where I think that some of those things were formed and nurtured and fostered and ultimately given permission to be expressed.
Yeah,
right?
and the people that are teaching you in the military or commanders, you kind of, I imagine you'd be resentful towards them, kind of?
A little bit. I think it will probably be
like,
just enough.
Not just you personally, just anyone. Like, nobody wants to get barked at orders, you know? So.
Right. And I think that that's part of the design, right? That's sort of how it works, is sort of break down and build up, mm-hmm. right? And I think that I found myself identify with at least that process, right? And understanding that process, and that allowed me to understand more about myself, which was that there had to be elements of humility, right? But not being humiliated. You know what I mean? Understanding that each person that was next to me was going through the same exact thing, right? So that brought a little bit of comfort to me, I think, as opposed to being like just necessarily like singled out or something like that.
Yeah. Wow. 6 years was a long time. Where did you serve? Did you go overseas? Did you get
Initially,
deployed?
yeah. Initially, I was stationed at 32nd Street in San Diego, which is why I'm still here, probably, you know. Mm. But a lot of my time was spent overseas, whether that's in the Persian Gulf, whether that's other places that I probably can't mention, but yeah, Persian Gulf. You know, but I've been everywhere around the area: Bahrain, Jebel Ali, Dubai. I've been to Spain, Italy. So my worldview at a young age was sort of exposed to something dynamic, which is pretty cool too.
So you were in the Iraq War?
Operation Iraqi Freedom. So I was pre and post 9/11,
mm-hmm.
right? So I was in '99. So before it all sort of started taking a weird turn, you know, in the world.
Yeah.
To say that's sort of like an understatement, you know, weird term. But yeah, joined '99 and then got out years after 9/11. So I was able to experience both sides of that.
That's crazy, because I came to this country in 2002, right after 9/11.
Oh, okay.
And it was kind of crazy out here.
Yeah.
And then, like, we can speak freely here. You told me, right? No holds barred, right?
Oh, please. I mean, I'd much rather, the truth than, what they say, I'd much rather a dirty truth than a clean lie any day.
Absolutely, man.
Yeah.
Life is too short for bullshit.
Yeah.
That's how I would say, like, I was like, confused, like surprised, like what did Iraq have anything to do with 9/11? So I see you're an intelligent man. I'm sure you guys were like, what are we doing here? Like, because they had nothing to do with it. And a lot of us, we know, a lot of people know kind of sort of what happened in Iraq afterwards, but like, how are you feeling like, because I didn't want anything to do with the war in Israel, because I didn't think that it was ever going to end, and I felt sorry for those guys, the Palestinians, So I'm wondering what it was like for you as an American soldier in Iraq that had nothing to do with 9/11, and people here thought that's what you guys were fighting for.
Well, I was disillusioned, if you want to hear maybe the long answer to that. In a weird way, I was disillusioned just 13 miles off the coast of America when I realized that we were able to, we're considered at a certain range offside the land of the United States to be considered, international waters. And then that's where we're like, all right, let's go ahead and start dumping trash. And I'm like, what the fuck? You know what I mean? So that was actually the first foray into
trash in the ocean?
Literally dumping, tons of trash out into the ocean. The United States military doing that, just trash overboard. You know what I mean? Yeah. So that was something that sort of, and I wasn't some, righteous, environmental fighter or anything like that prior. I was still really young, just to understand something, you have this idea or this image or concept in your mind about something, especially if it's sort of saving your life to a degree. And then you sort of pierce the veil on that and you say, wait, what? It gives you a new perspective as to what it is that you want to participate in or be involved with or be influenced by, right? Mm-hmm. So, but so that I guess I'm saying that's a microcosm, right?
Yeah.
To the extent of going further and be talking about war and killing people, and I understood that acutely. Not in the place of my own power at that time, to where I was like, hey, this isn't right. Keep me out of here. You know what I mean? That's not how it works.
You weren't there yet.
Yeah, especially if you're advancing rank and you're trying to, just sort of navigate yourself through life, period, under the guise of this, oath, right, if you will, and sort of a nationalistic obligation, But yeah, I realized, to tell the truth, I went through, and this will speak, I guess, directly to what this podcast is about, right? Is that sort of upkeeping of appearances that men might have, going forward, and not being able to just be vulnerable in explaining how they're affected by things. Because I went through that in the military once. I was disillusioned by what I was doing over there in the first place, and I finally get back home from overseas because I did 2 tours. Getting back home overseas and then needing a different kind of attention, right, for my mental health, as well as after I got injured, which I blew out my knee when I was in the military, etc. Not being able to really speak to anybody about what depression looked like and what it was that I was going through, even though they supposedly had like certain resources there to where, go speak to the chaplain. Well, I'm not religious, right? Or go speak to the therapist, or, what I'm saying? There was still, obviously even more so than today, I would say, a different kind of stigma back then, especially when you're looking at a sort of heightened version of something, which is the military, being in the military, so.
Yeah, and I just heard something that, like, Freud realized that psychotherapy doesn't really work, and it's much more effective when there's a time limit on it. I don't know if you heard about this. I just heard about this recently. Like, when he would tell his patients, like, you have 2 months of therapy, and once the 2 months were up, they would be healed. But he would work with people for years and years without a definite time. Well, I'm a big placebo believer. I think it's all mind over matter.
Right.
And that we're capable of healing anything, no matter what we go through, and
I can credit.
Yeah, I can see, man, and you told me some stuff that you've been through in the military, and I was like surprised, I'm still surprised to hear these things, but once we work on ourselves and work with the medicine and work with ourselves, and anything's possible.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Agreed.
And one thing that really inspired me to start my men's group and this podcast is the issue of men killing themselves. I know in the military that's a big thing. Like, you know people who...
Yeah, I do. I know two people who killed themselves. I can't say whether that's a direct, I'm sure that there's some correlation, right, between just, life happening, whether that being in the framework of the military or not. There's always going to be something resonant to serving in the military and seeing certain things, of course.
Mm-hmm.
But I myself, not to just keep it all encompassed around myself, but I'm the best, authority on, my own experience. So I'll speak from my experience, which is that I was suicidal. I've been 5150, from, and I'm not, I would never blame the world necessarily for not having resource, but that is part of the matter of the fact, you know what I mean? But for me, I always circle it back to my own accountability. But would things have been so prolonged and as dramatic and painful if I knew right away that there was a different option insofar as resources or people to talk to, or not even, or just not being confronted right away with the stigma of what that even looks like.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? But
Yeah.
I've experienced that, myself, and that's been an ongoing process of healing for me. But over the last 6 or 7 years, no one's in the clear for me anything, I guess, in that sense. But it's been a lot of work done.
So that's good. I'm happy to hear that, because it connects to what you said earlier, that men aren't allowed to have any feelings still till this day. It's like, oh, what are you, bitch? You crying? It's like, now it's getting better because there's more awareness a little bit, and honestly, because the women are fed up with us that that we don't know how to express ourselves. That's why most men are doing the work. That's what I see. You know what I mean? I honestly believe that everything in this world is made for women. If we didn't have that drive, we wouldn't even try to do anything. There would be no...
Buy the cool car, buy the cool clothes. Is that what you feel? Yeah.
Exactly, but yeah. See,
what do we do with that? How do we unpack that, right? Because, and maybe this is me being devil's advocate. I don't know.
Mm-hmm.
Just as we speak about our ability to heal ourselves, right, and us having every opportunity, to do so. I'll use this as an example, but then again, we have westernized medicine and the whole pharmaceutical conglomerate that sort of hunker down against us and all the propaganda that is attached to that, right?
Mm-hmm.
So we look at that, but then at the end of the day, we say, but we do individually each have the ability and access to find healing, whether that's through some element of divinity, or you can even mix the sciences, do that, meditation, etc. Some of the things that I've utilized.
Mm-hmm.
So how do we unpack that with, the conversation pointed directly to lack of resources to men, and sort of things being built in this world more directed towards women, and us having to sort of be reactive or responsive to that. If we, as individual humans, still have the ability to access to go ahead and heal ourselves, right?
Mm-hmm.
Overall.
Yeah, honestly, I don't think the world has changed that much in the last 10, 50,000 years, since we were cavemen. It's like, women want security, it's scary for a woman to be outside of the house. Scary for women to be inside the house sometimes, you know what I mean? The people that are really close to me, they got attacked inside their own house. My mother-in-law, God bless her, man, she got brutally assaulted when she was pregnant inside her own house.
Wow.
And it's a tough world out there, and the media likes to portray as if we're living in some kind of, I'm gonna say Disneyland. Disneyland scares the shit out of me.
I'm not a big Disney fan myself.
No, man, people get kidnapped there all the time, bro, but sorry, we might take that out. I don't know.
It's a small world.
Yeah, Walt Disney was a Nazi, and there's nothing changed,
Yeah.
But, yeah, so there's just human nature, and a lot of the things that I noticed in recent times and growing up is that we've been fed this illusion that like the world is fair, you know, the world is safe, that America is not a racist place, you know, and all these like blatant lies. And you know, we can go into political correctness, you know, which I think is the biggest problem in this country, where you have to just pretend like we're the same.
Right.
We're equals, but we're not the same.
Right.
You know what I mean? And yeah, I spent some time in Jamaica, and in Jamaica, my name is White Man. You know, they don't remember names. It's not part of the culture.
Right.
You can grow up with someone and not know his name. Like, oh yeah, that's Dwayne, but his name is Talis because he's tall.
Right.
You know, that's Fata over there. That's Mr. Chin. All the store owners are Chinese over there, and they're all called Mr. Chin. And they're like, "What, Mr. Chin?" And I'm like, yeah, "Everything cool, man."
Right.
Because it's just honesty, you know what I mean? And it's like, at first I was insulted. I'm like, "What? He just called me a white man," you know? But yeah, you know, it's just there's like a lot of tension coming from the political correctness. You know what I'm saying? What's up, guys? This incredible podcast is sponsored by my company, Juggle.media. We help small businesses get big. So if you run your own business or want to start a new one, just hit me up, 619-777-8973, or log on to Juggle.media, and let's get the ball rolling, yo. I was asking you, so you said both your parents. How was your experience in growing up in America? Because I wasn't really here most of my formative years.
I'd say pretty standard, and then dynamically unique on top of that, right? So I have what do I have? 4 biological siblings, but I have like 11 foster sisters and an adoptive sister. I guess I should have added that too. We're talking about men growing up, and I have 11 foster sisters.
Wow.
Also, and then,
So you lived like in a foster home?
No. My parents brought in children, right? My mom is, you know, sort of like, you know, always of service, right, in the community. No matter, you know, whether that's almost like a militant stance. You know, she started the first like black newspaper in our town because it was, you know, underrepresented. So I was originally born like LA, Beverly Hills, then went out to, you know, the burbs as my parents had more kids, so like Altadena, Pasadena area, and then settled primarily in like Duarte, which is a small little suburb between like east of Pasadena and Altadena, and then but west of like Pomona and all that area, like Riverside and stuff, Orange County. So tucked up in the foothills. So that's how I grew up. The family dynamic, at least.
It's like suburb kind of.
Yeah,
country.
very suburban, sort of. What do they call it? What do they call it within the wealth? Yeah, you know, middle class.
Okay.
Right. So yeah, my dad was an aerospace engineer and realtor, and my mom was more like a stay-at-home and entrepreneur, and you know, community outreach activist.
Awesome.
So that's how I grew up. Yeah.
Awesome. So now I see kind of how you came to be, because.
Yeah, which means I like my solitude a lot. You know what I mean?
Oh,
that's why I'm always in the wilderness. Yeah.
Yeah. No, because your mom's community service and your dad's builder, engineer.
Yeah.
That's how you come to.
Oh, those
be
parts.
who you
Yeah.
are.
Yeah. Those are. Yeah,
So you have 15 siblings.
About that, yeah. You know, give or take. And I say that with the kindest heart, you know what I mean? Not to say like I don't, but it's just that because my mom had such an open door, you know, growing up for kids. You know, even my friends, you know, like, you know, grew up in a shitty kind of situation. Mom's wasn't home, you know, dad's wasn't in the home. Mom had to work that kind of stuff, and, you know, maybe sometimes they couldn't eat, and bring them on in, you know, stay over for a little bit until whatever blows over at home. And that's how I grew up, so that's how my household was.
That's awesome.
Yeah, but with some, you know, with some realness in there too, sprinkle in some abuse and shit, and some of those real world elements. And that's more, and I say this candidly, and I'm not, shitting on my dad's name. I'm actually the namesake of my father also. His name is Spencer Herbert. I'm Spencer Kyoshi. So, a lot on the mantle for me there, regarding expectation and stuff like that.
What's up, guys? This incredible podcast is sponsored by my company, Juggle.media. We help small businesses get big. So if you run your own business or want to start a new one, just hit me up, 619-777-8973, or log on to Juggle.media, and let's get the ball rolling, yo. What we were talking about, your dad?
Abuse. Growing up and sort of, I guess maybe growing up from a young age and witnessing some of the elements that we're talking about now, which is sort of a stifling of your own natural innate sensibilities through masculinity, right? And what that looks like now today. I mean, it's insanely different. And even back then, I mean, that was what, the 80s, where it was almost sort of like no holds barred, but you can start seeing the trickling in of the political correctness of, what is to the level of which we see today, the sort of beginnings of that maybe back then.
Yeah, it was interesting because I was here in the 80s. I was a child. I lived in Brooklyn, and that's like the most politically correct place on the planet, but at the same time, it's very honest, you know what I mean? It's like,
right.
Oh, you're a Jew, you're a Jamaican, you're a black guy, but it's like, I was hanging out with one of my teachers, he's a Jamaican guy, and he's like, you wouldn't believe it. I saw a black man walking down the street holding hands with a black girl in Brooklyn.
That's funny, actually.
Because it's all mixed. You don't
Right.
see any, and that's why I love Brooklyn, and that's what I think that the world needs. I think it should be mandatory to have mixed kids. Like it should be illegal to have kids with the same race as you know what I mean? And
well, there's a weird inevitability to that at some point. I do joke about that because growing up I was like, I didn't know what the hell I was really and just trying to see where I fit best, But as I grew up, there was like some elements of humor that like, I started owning it. The degree I ended up really enjoying being unique and people sort of being intrigued and there being some kind of mystique or mystery about me, besides the fact that I'm part alien, of course.
Yeah.
Ultimately what it was for me is like, well, there's a strange sense of inevitability to this, you know what I mean? So at some point we're going to transcend the whole white, black thing, and even though that construct, that concept doesn't really exist anyway, in reality, it's something that's propagated and used, obviously, to divide us from the powers that be, but that might be another podcast.
No, I'm good. I've been studying and learning about this stuff because it was white N-words, and and I feel like I grew up like that, because if you're white and you're broke, or Jewish, or Irish,
Right.
or Italian, until this day, like, people think I'm white, but once they hear my accent, then like, oh, this, what I mean? Where are you from? Where are you from? Like,
Right.
I drive Ubers, and everyone, passengers, like, now they have in California, they're politically correct, so how long have you been in San Diego?
That's it.
Are you from San Diego?
Yeah.
And it's like, I'm Jewish from Israel, what?
Yeah.
That's where my accent's from.
Right.
Next, where are you from? I prefer that, you know what I mean? At first I was like, you get like, when you come here, it's like, you're supposed to like, walk on eggshells around everyone, you know what I mean? So then when people don't walk on eggshells around you, you get sensitive, you know what I mean?
Right.
But I'm just over it. I'm like, yeah, I grew up in Brooklyn. My friends that I grew up with, they call me the N-word, and they tell me to call them that too. They get angry. How come you don't call me my nigga?
Yeah.
I'm like, well, When
you said N-word earlier when you were explaining, I was just gonna be like, he means nigga. Like to just say it, kind of thing.
Yeah, we all
Like,
say it in our cars or we're singing Biggie Smalls. I mean, come on, man. It's like, I'm not calling you an N-word with the R at the end. I've been called that by my baby mama more than plenty of times, you know. And
context is key.
Yeah, you know, and
Anywhere.
honestly, I used to be a Rasta, and
Mhm.
they go by the Ethiopian, like, Negas means king. Negus Negas is king of kings, and, but that word has such a big charge, and
Yeah.
it's like, black people in this country are angry for a reason,
Mhm.
for many reasons, you know what I mean? And that's like one thing that's like theirs, y'all's, that, and it's very interesting to me. It's like, okay, so, that's the right that you want to hold on to? Like, you guys can demand a lot more than that, you know what I mean? And people, it's like, they're given, like, these things to, like, oh, you can say the N-word, but forget about reparations, you know what I mean? And it's like, that stuff that, it saddens me, that people aren't, they're just not in a place to fight for that, you know what I mean? Because I heard that, I believe that a lot of the black people here in this country have been here for thousands of years.
Prior to the transatlantic slave trade.
Yeah, because it doesn't make sense. How do you bring 10 million people from Africa? How can you do that today?
Right.
You know what I mean? And yeah, there's lots of documentation. And I have friends, they tell me I'm Native American, I'm not African American.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, transatlantic slave trade did happen. That's the thing about mutual exclusivity, and then when we talk about two truths existing at one time, right?
Mm-hmm.
So when everything is propagated from some falsehood anyway, and everything in social studies and the history books that you've been reading, there's elements of truth to it, but the overall truth being buried, right?
Mm-hmm.
Then that's going to fuck a lot of people up, right?
Yeah.
Especially if these foundations and systems and structures have been built on, dogmatic principles that influence the politics of the building of the country. You dig what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. So to go back and have to unwire that with a hard truth, is a tough pill to swallow and a real uphill climb. But I think that there are things, not to interrupt, sorry, but that transcend even that conversation as a whole, right? Because I like to break things down to the last common denominator, and all of these things, not to be like, well, here, wrap it up in the bows, there we go. But all of these things are enveloped by a more fundamental truth and law of the cosmos, the universe, and God, you know what I mean, is that we can access levels of divinity that go beyond the conversation of saying, well, I'm this race. This is what I identify now because this is what has been propagated. And then if we go back and dig further, there's actually a deeper truth to that. And then what does that tell me, right? Either way, the more we go back and peel back these layers, all we're going to keep doing is finding more things to identify with that are not our truest nature, right? So we can go back and say, okay, this is the status of the black community at large within the United States now. Now, let's go ahead and implement the truth and say that before the transatlantic slave trade, they were native to this area because of the ice bridge allowed for this, but we can't tell the truth about that because the history books have said this. So that goes against all archaeological principles, etc., that are connected to that religiosity. Now, but what I'm saying is that once you go back that one layer, then it's like, okay, the truth is out. See, so now this is one thing to identify with. Now that'll slowly bring together who? That might bring together the natives and the blacks. That might give some solace to the fact that we've been lied to. But here's the deal. Who doesn't know at some degree that we're fucking being lied to? If that's what it takes for you to understand that things are fucking off, then you might need something else. Then go ahead. You might need that reparations then, so you can go get the fucking Louis bag and then say, I have power. I used to be a fucking king. At the end of the day, I don't fucking need that, right? Because I'm spirit consciousness. I'm consciousness all day. There's something else. There's something else deeper than whatever truth it is that any other man can tell me. And I think that that's what we really need to get down to the base of.
So like you're the king of your own universe already. Absolutely. You don't need the government to give you anything.
Yeah, I'm tied into the divine at all times, you know.
Exactly. Oh, that's the catch-22 kind of situation that they have. You know, it's like, oh, you need to pay taxes and you need to do all this stuff and you need. Like, I dropped out of college because I didn't get financial aid and they told me you can get a student loan.
Mm-hmm.
I'm like, fuck that, I don't want a loan. Now I'm learning that you don't have to even pay that off.
Right.
If you stop paying 7 years, 5 years, they forget about it.
Mm-hmm.
And that's like one of the biggest topics that the government is concerned about.
Right.
You know, like elections right on that topic,
Right.
you know, and
Right.
it's just so intense, the propaganda and the conditioning and yeah, man, it's a good talk, you know.
Yeah.
Happy we're having this talk right
We
now.
should be
you
peeling
know?
back the layers too. And I'm not saying, look, everybody needs to go to everyone has to go through this crazy transformative spiritual awakening. Like, you know what I mean? I guess so what I'm saying is that congruent to the teachings of the truth as we move forward, there's a lot of people out there who experience what it is that I'm talking about, that we need to make sure that we're combining, right? As we peel back the layers, these other more in-depth truths, so that we're not, as we're going along, identifying with, you know, whatever it is that we're being fed. You know what I mean? And the only way to do that is ultimately take accountability for your own fucking failures, wins, losses, successes, setbacks, and growths. You know?
Yeah, that's a heavy topic right there. Accountability is a lot, you know, and it's something that is very, for me personally, it's very triggering when people don't take accountability, which means that probably I don't take enough accountability.
Reflecting back to you.
Yeah, you know, and that's a big word right there, you know, like, I know that a lot of men have problems with women because women are it's harder for women to, it seems like it's harder for women to take accountability because they don't have like that programming of a man of my word, you know what I mean? And for me, it's like if I owe you $10, I can't fall asleep at night. You know what I mean? And it's like, going back into the whole masculine, feminine kind of thing, you know, and that's just something that I struggle with, and in regards to relationships, you know, I refer all relationships sexual with the opposite sex. Even if you're not having sex, there's a sexual transaction of energy with every woman I encounter.
Okay.
I'm driving Uber, woman's in my car, there's something in the air right there. It doesn't matter if she's 80 years old, you know what I mean, or 18 years old. There's this chemistry, you know. We're all animals. That's the thing that.
What kind of chemistry are we talking about? So what? Speak on what do you mean? Like I get what you're saying, because every transaction essentially, you know, between women and women, there is some kind of innate sense of sexuality in the midst of that.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah, because like the masculine. So I've been studying a little bit about this stuff. There's a guy called David Data. He wrote The Way of the Superior Man.
Okay.
And John Wineland, he's one of his students, and basically there's something called the arc of polarity, and you have the masculine energy and the feminine energy, and they're always like craving each other. So the more a woman's in her masculine, she'll be attracted to a man that's in his feminine, who's more submissive, more artistic, more less of a leader, pusher, driver, you know what I mean? And I grew up, a lot of single moms out there, my mom included, she's very like tough mom, working all the time, and like, and my dad's also like that, that's why they split up. And then my mom found this guy who was more submissive. He was never, I never seen him angry in my life, you know, and I had...
That's the same with my parents. My mom. Go ahead. Sorry.
No, it's very common, you know what I mean? And especially in America. My mom's American and I love her to death, you know, and that's something else I was going to talk about. And yeah, it's just like the system is brainwashing all of us. But in particularly this topic, like the system is brainwashing women to disassociate with what used to be considered feminine energy, nurturing and patience and, you know, the softness and, you know, the trust with God. You know, I don't meet that many women that believe in God, you know, because they were told that God is this old white man.
It's the leader of the patriarchy.
Yeah, you know, and women were they still are the source of spirituality in the household, because the men were always gone either hunting or working or in the army, and it's like once the women got disconnected from the spirituality and had to become the providers, you know, and it's like, okay, so if both parents have to work all of a sudden since the 60s and 70s, why do I need you? Why does a woman need a man, you know?
Very
But
true.
she has to take care of the kids and have a full-time job and cook for this motherfucker. And,
And the concept of feminism, definitely when that was introduced, was like, wait a second, the governments were like, we get to take in two sources of income now in tax?
Mm-hmm.
Exactly. I mean, it's very true.
Yeah.
You know, now we get this much output in the workforce, you know what I mean? And then if we make them compete against each other or make the woman feel that she's inferior in every sense, then she'll try harder and work harder to try to get up to this, right?
Exactly.
Ceiling. Right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, and then they have two households. You
Yeah.
You got two SDG&E bills.
Yeah.
You got two cars. You got two beds.
Absolutely.
Two sets
Yeah.
of clothes for the
Yeah.
kids. Two Sony PlayStations. Everything, you know. And
Yeah.
and then the parents are gone at work. Everybody knows this already. You know, the parents are gone at work because they gotta hold the household by themselves.
Mm-hmm.
And the kids are out in the streets all day,
Yeah.
getting other lost girls who don't have parents, getting them pregnant and repeating the cycle again and again, you know.
To the point where now we got these raising our kids.
Yep, yep.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, it's insane. Don't get me started on that, you know.
Yeah.
No comment on that.
Yeah. Save that. That's too good to. Yeah, we gotta save that. Too
You know.
good to just glean on right now. But
Yeah, I mean, at the same time, you know, I have my marketing company and I'm teaching my kids how to make videos, because if they can make money from home, you know, from the age of 15,
yeah.
you know, that's like, you know, my Muslim friends, you know, in Israel, some of them, they didn't go to school at all. They went to work construction from age 5. But guess what? Once they're 18, they're already like know how to build 4-unit duplexes and houses. You know what I mean?
Right.
They know how to run that, and they already have their own house. You know.
Yeah.
And over there, it's like, let's say you came to an area and you bought your house with your wife, right? And you have a kid. You build a house for them over there. Have another kid. They grow up. They build their own house. So then you have like everyone's living next to each other and helping each other out. And here in America, it's like, oh, you're 18? Go to the other side of the country and get fucked up, you know?
Yeah.
And,
very true.
and maybe come back later, you know? It's like, because I moved to Israel when I was 8 years old, and like, everyone was so weirded out about how my mom treated me, you know. It's like so different, you know what I mean?
Like you were coddled or something in their eyes, or
no,
like...
the opposite.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I was like, your mom's at work all the time.
Oh, got it,
and
got
like,
it,
gives
yeah.
you microwave food, and like, she kicked me out of the house when I was 16. You know, I mean, I was a shithead like that. I deserved it. You know what I mean? But I was I was too independent. You know, I used to take the subway when I was 6 years old by myself. You know,
Right.
I'm very independent.
That's New York, huh?
Yeah.
For real, yeah.
From Brooklyn all the way to Chelsea,
Straight up.
Manhattan. You know, not every day, but
PS 126, shout out. No, I'm just kidding. I don't know nothing about that.
PS11, yeah, bro.
PS11.
PS11, homeboys, yeah. But
Oh, shoot.
I was just too much, you know what I mean? But at the same time, it's like the Western society culture is like, it's like backwards from everywhere else in the world, you
Yeah.
know, and it's kind of sad to see, but at the same time, I see that people are waking up and starting homesteads and starting communities, and you know, and the internet, you know, everything is a gift and a curse. The internet, as bad as it is, social media, as bad as it is, I learned a whole lot from it.
Yeah.
A whole lot. I know that I expanded my mind like super fast because of Instagram, you know?
Right.
As terrible as it is, it's also very empowering. And I always say, you gotta use the internet, not let the internet use you.
Of course.
You know, like
It's just like our ego.
Exactly. That's
Who's working for who?
That's a good segue right now.
Yeah.
'Cause I was gonna talk to you about. You said the word. I keep forgetting this term. Spiritual bypassing.
Okay.
You know, and when I got into spirituality, 2012, you know, it was all about killing your ego, and now it's like you can't. You know, everyone's starting to realize that.
This just in. You need your ego.
Newsflash.
You need your ego. Yeah. That's true. Yeah. There's a lot of different sort of, you know, new age terminologies and catchphrases and quotes and cliches and, you know, sort of fucking thumbnails and clickbait, spiritual clickbait,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Yeah.
That's sort of what's out there. But just like anything else, right? It doesn't matter however pure we feel the source to be, man gets his hands on something and they're going to find a way to squeeze whatever the fuck they can out of it. And that's good, especially a capitalistic view here in the West as we see. But around the world, we've, America for a very long time has been the front runner in what the pursuit of happiness consists of and what prosperity looks like,
Mm-hmm.
right? And it couldn't be further from the truth of our nature, right? So there's an unraveling in the sense of that taking place, and people are just sort of finding their way, you know, and we're all reflections of each other in that sense and what we experience. And hopefully, you know, as we move forth, that brings us all closer together. The more, you know, that we realize that we're actually connected, you know, going back to the even other little tendrils and facets of the conversation that we're having, the more that we realize that, right, the more that we're willing to be of service and sort of see past some of the, you know, all of the bullshit actually that's been sort of constructed around us by us, right? So we got to, once again, there goes a shot of fucking accountability into the arm also.
Yeah.
That comes along with it, you know, and then that's why they call it doing the work, right?
Mm-hmm.
Shadow work, healing work, all of this stuff. So, and I've gone through a number of iterations of it to where, you know, where I'm at now. I was like, all right, this is cool. I could be in the city, I could be in the mountain, you know what I'm saying? I could be in heaven, I could be in hell, I could be in the future, I could be in the past, I could be in the present. You know what I'm saying? And I'm all right. So.
Yeah. No, it's very interesting because you grew up here in LA, and LA is a very interesting town, you know, because it's one of the darkest places I've ever been, but it's also the most advanced spiritually in the world, you know. LA, that's where yoga came to the United States. That's where it started, and I meet like some really interesting people from LA. You know, I had a lot of like judgment about LA. I thought it was just, that's like the city with the biggest ego in the world. But also it's very, very advanced. It's like a melting pot where people are, you know, 'cause growing up in New York, you hate LA.
Mm-hmm.
You know, New Yorkers come to LA and we lose our shit. I've tried to move there, I don't know, 15 years ago. I ran away. Like, you need a car here, and everybody's materialistic, and people are kind of weird. They don't talk so much, you know, and so, yeah, I mean, going back to what you were saying now, it's like, do you think that it's even possible to heal? You know what I mean? Because people are on this mission to, I gotta heal. Once I heal, then it's gonna be okay. You know, to become like this carrot on a stick, it seems like, you know what I mean? And it's just...
Do I think it's possible for individuals to heal, or what do you mean, like society?
No, for individuals, you know?
Yeah. I think we sort of have to, just like anything else, get down to the ground roots of understanding what healing might mean.
Mm-hmm.
And that could be something totally different to each person, right?
Mm-hmm.
Different traumas, different experiences, different healing, right?
Yeah.
Different sensations of healing, different methodologies of what we think that means.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So in that sense, yes,
Mm-hmm.
I believe that everyone can heal. I think that the question is also, you know, from that, not to fast forward too far from that point, and we can get back to it if you want, but it's what we do once we heal. It's what we're healing for, right? Are we looking to manifest and make money and do this? And not that anything is wrong with that, but it's like, what is the principal focus of wanting to heal? To end any suffering is important, right? And it takes understanding that only one person can do the healing, right? For the one that needs to be healed, and that itself.
Yes.
Okay.
You can't heal nobody else.
So yeah, so I would say that there's methodology, there's template knowledge, there's ancient wisdom, there's a lot of different ways that we can all heal, absolutely. You know, but that doesn't always mean that the healed will be one that outputs more healing. They can do a lot of hurting too, still from that point, you know, it just sort of depends on perspective.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah.
Yeah. It's like, the way I see it, it's like you can be healed enough to get by.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Right, to participate again.
Yeah, there's
Right.
techniques, because for me it's all about the present moment. Life is all about the breath and the present moment, and nothing exists beyond this present moment.
True.
You know, everything else is illusion. The future, the past, it was never yesterday, it's never going to be tomorrow.
Right.
And that's when suffering comes, when you're worried about something in the future, it's anxiety, or you're worried about the past, it's depression.
Mm-hmm.
I'll give you a live example. This dude, I picked up this dude in my car, and he told me that he went on the 805 with his bicycle trying to kill himself. And he got hit by a car 70 miles an hour and survived it. And I'm like, wow, you got your life back as a gift, you know, it's a gift that you're alive, you know. And then it turns out his name is Shael, which means gift of God in Hebrew, straight up, like that's his name, you know. And I've been helping him out kind of with some medicine also, and just like talking to him. He's been calling me and texting me. And this morning, I went to sleep 2:30 a.m. I woke up 5:30 a.m. And then I see a text message from him, like, yeah, I'm gonna give my life back to God. And I got super triggered, you know, and super triggered, just sent me back to like the suicide bombers across the street in my house in Tel Aviv, you know, like, and I have a problem with codependency where I try to help other people and I was just like over it.
Mm.
I told him like, you can try, but you're gonna come back right. I was like out of my sleep. Like, you can try, but you're gonna come back to a much shittier life than you have right now. You already tried once and God didn't let you do that. So even if you succeed, which you probably won't, then you're gonna come right back here to a shittier life than you have right now.
Oh, give himself to God, like kill himself again.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, I thought you meant like he was turning over to religion. Like
That's what I thought also.
Oh, okay.
That's what I thought also. But
Okay.
the dude was like waking me up, telling me he's gonna kill himself.
Oh, God.
And I don't even know him that well. And it's just like, there's so many vampires out there,
Mm-hmm.
you know, that possess people. It's not the person itself that is bad, but he has some demon in him that wanted to fuck my day up. You know what I mean? And teach me compassion.
Mm-hmm.
But I also have compassion for myself, you know? And when I give other people too much compassion and they disappoint me, I have like 3 people I know that killed themselves in the last 2 years, you know? And I felt super bad, like, oh, I could have, you know what I mean?
Yeah, what if I could have done more?
Yeah, you know what I mean? But what if I would have done more and wasted 10 years and then they kill themselves?
Yeah.
And, you know, I believe that everything is God. This microphone, you, your necklace, your shoes, these lights, our friend right here. And Alan Watts says one of my favorite quotes that actually made me believe in God. He said, God created individual identities because he was bored and wanted to play hide and seek with himself.
Yeah.
You know?
The Joker.
And it just makes sense, because when you're talking to someone and you're making that eye contact and you're really communicating with someone, there's no me or you know, we're just one. I don't even need to say the words correctly, you understand what I'm saying before I even start the next sentence, you know where it's going. And it's like, I felt bad, you know, but I told him like, hey, there's Codependence Anonymous. I sent him a link. These guys helped me out a whole lot, more than a lot of plant medicine and a lot of money that I spent on therapists. I went to one Coda meeting, and it was just a group of people who put everyone else before them, you know? And I told them, don't talk to me until you go there. And honestly, this person kills himself, I couldn't have done anything to change it. You know?
Yeah.
And it's like, I don't feel like I can heal, going back to the trauma, you know? Like, from my childhood in Israel with people blowing themselves up everywhere, I'm thankful to be alive every day. And people call me entitled, you know, because I'm just happy-go-lucky. I'm like, oh, look at this white man, he's so entitled, you know.
Happy-ass white man.
Yeah, you know.
Enjoying his chicken salad sandwich and Snapple and shit.
Exactly, you know what I mean? But
I think this one just stopped.
Alright.
okay.
This is pretty hilarious and fun and everything.
What's up, guys? This incredible podcast is sponsored by my company, Juggle.media. We help small businesses get big. So if you run your own business or want to start a new one, just hit me up, 619-777-8973, or log on to Juggle.media, and let's get the ball rolling, yo.
If the content is ready, get it down, right?
Exactly.
And then work from there.
And every day you're a different person, you know, so we can have the same conversation in a month and it will be totally different, and our thoughts are going to be different, and
absolutely.
how we see things is going to be different, and how we use the equipment.
Yep.
I'm gonna move a little bit to the middle.
Alright, like this?
Yeah, you're good.
Both of them are good? Alright, let's get back, let's look at my topics, what I have for you
Alright.
today. Change the subject a little bit, okay? One of the common topics I want for all of my guests is red flags. All right, we're talking men, women here. So if you meet a girl, you have red flags that you are like set on.
I don't know. You know what? I haven't really thought about that in a long time because I haven't really been relationship minded, I guess. So I'd probably be only speaking to my past. You know what? To tell the honest to fucking God truth, body count is a factor, player.
How many men she's been with?
Yeah, and I'm not going to toss a number out there. I don't necessarily have a number myself. But what I'm saying is that there's an energy. See, I'm energetically sensitive, for lack of a better term, right? So,
yeah.
or energy, hyper aware,
Mm-hmm.
right? And attentive to energies, right? And that, you know, it doesn't dictate how I ultimately respond. It dictates whether I even engage in the first place.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? So, I think that, you know, when we talk about healing and we talk about traumas and we talk about certain things like that, you know, this all falls under the same umbrella too of like propagated information like feminism and stuff like that about owning your sexuality, owning your body, and owning this, that, and the other. I get that, but also I can sense quite quickly and clearly, you know what I mean, whether you're really owning that and have healed from something, or you're still wearing that on your sleeve, or it's becoming part of your identity or a soundbite or something within your life. You know, so I would say that that can do a lot of trauma to anybody, you know, man or woman. You know, I think if you're being truthful with yourself, right? Even men, you know, men want a good woman. They want someone who doesn't sleep around. They don't want, you know, at the end of the day, they want that because regardless of the chatter that you hear outside of like, oh yeah, attaboy, go nail as many as you can, there's certain things within the nature that explain why that is insofar as reproduction and what our innate purpose is as a species.
Self-validation also.
Right. But I think that men can end up feeling empty from that same thing, right? So if we're reflections of each other in that sense, you know what I mean, whether we're projecting or we're embracing, at the end of the day, we don't want that in a woman either. And if there's any kind of value that we still hold dear towards women in our upbringing, like our mothers and our grandmothers or something like that, we would shudder when we would hear anything about our those women that we looked up to being a sexual being, you know, like as innocent as it could be, you know what I mean? You just don't want to hear like, oh no, I don't want that, you know? And so what I'm talking about is obviously a hyperbolic stance on that insofar as that being exaggerated, you know, not just being a sexual being and owning who you are as a woman and being feminine, but I'm just talking about giving it away like that, you know what I mean? There's a reason behind that, and so that would be sort of a red flag to me that I'm energetically sensitive to recognizing.
Okay. I wish I had that skill.
Oh, really?
Because I'm naive. And like I was in a relationship with someone that she told me she was only with one man before me, but she was in a long relationship, and that wasn't the case, you know. And now we were in a long relationship, and I realized that I don't want to say manipulated, but I was definitely lied to, and my intuition was telling me that something was going on. You know, I would be away working, and you know, there were some instances when you mention someone's name and she looks aside, and you know, little things like that, and I just very weak when it comes to women. And I'm working on it. I'm on a celibacy path right now for, today is 2 months where I'm like not flirting with women, not initiating any dating or sexual activities. I had to actually like I managed to, I don't say had to, I had the privilege to stop women, like, get off of me.
Beating them off with a stick.
I'm not saying that, it was just like two girls there, I was getting a blowjob and I was like, stop it, I don't want to give you my, because that goes back to
My
what
essence.
you said, we get drained physically.
Yeah.
I was after, because I'm also on the no-fap thing, you know, and that's why I'm like so
Okay.
powerful that nobody's worth that for me right now. I'm like a locomotive, like plowing through, like and so I created these red flags, you know, that I realized from my past experience that first of all I noticed that my friends who have the happiest marriages, they were with girls that they were friends with first.
Mm-hmm.
And like now, I'm just looking to be friends with people and, you know, get to know them first before we get in the bed, you know?
Yeah.
And I was not that guy at all.
Oh, really?
Oh, no.
See, I grew up, I was real reserved. I was strange as hell as a child, right? Anyway.
Mm.
I mean, strange in the sense that, you know, you look from the outside looking in, like, this little dude's sort of weird. He's just quiet and just observing people, doesn't really talk much.
Mm-hmm.
Doesn't like playing with other kids, especially if you got like some popsicle in your hands or some fucking candy. I'm like, get out of here.
Mm-hmm.
But even in the sense of like intimacy, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I'm an open book to my shit, you know. I was young when I lost my virginity, like 13, to an older woman, and it freaked me out to where I was like, you know, I didn't have sex for years again.
How old was she?
So I was 13, she was like 24, 22.
Oh, so that's,
So
there's lots of names for that.
Yeah. But I don't feel like I was taken advantage of either. I think that it was more or less just me going against my sensibilities and intuition that I knew even at 13, because I was developed in a certain way in my intellectual capacities and just sort of how I presented out in that way. So I said to say that either way, I just grew up in a sort of reserved nature, and that sort of carried over into my adulthood, to where people were like, "Oh, you're picky or this or that." You know, it's like, no, I just don't have this drive to do this. I mean, I get hit on. I get, you know what I mean.
You're a good-looking guy. I believe that.
You know, thanks. But you know, but part of that, like I said, is almost like, once again, the whole masculine thing. It's like a lot of people thought that I was gay just because I wouldn't engage in certain, you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Expectations, you know, like we go to the mall, you know, when you're younger, you know, fellas and stuff go to the
Wrestling
mall.
girls
I would have to like fake it. Like I was like, yeah, you know what I mean? And then, you know, girl, get my number or something like that, because I would get hit on. I wouldn't be chasing the girls, but it was inevitable. If I get hit on, then I got to sort of play the role for the guys, you know, around me and stuff.
That's the way to do it. I never was successful at hitting on a girl.
Yeah,
all the girls that I picked up, they hit on me.
Weird,
Ever.
And yeah, I remember
Funny how that works.
this girl who was like, just, I don't know, maybe she's just more experienced or something, or just that whole thing I just always sort of shied away from, not out of like fear, but just out of just a distaste. It just didn't really turn me on, you know?
Yeah, I mean, I don't wanna, well, I'm a very blunt person. And what you just told me is like, imagine your daughter would tell you that. When she was 13, she had sex with a 28-year-old man.
Right.
You know?
Oh, yeah.
Who was in control?
Yeah.
And women are more mature than men.
Right.
I was very active from a young age, and that was kind of like my Latino Argentinian dad, was my validation. My dad is still, till this day, 65, and he can pull amazing, beautiful girls. Like if I go out with him, all the girls are all over him. You know? And that's kind of like where I would get my validation from. I still do, you know. And yeah, my partner, ex-baby mama, she was 14 years old, and was found by this dude in his 20s who was giving her drugs and, and they ended up having a kid together. And yeah, that's one of the people that killed himself that I was telling you about.
Wow.
Because she started to realize that he was sexually abusing her, lots of other girls, they're 14 years old, giving them pills and fucking them, and
Sorry, it stopped. You can continue the story, but
perfect timing. I don't know if I should have been talking about
No,
it,
that's a good, yeah, we'll segue for the next one, for sure.
But, yeah, so I developed these red flags, and it's, girl has to have, number one is God. If you can't say I believe in God out loud, then I don't want to even go there. I'm not trying to teach anybody anything.
Right.
And that's like an ego problem, And I used to have that ego problem. I recognize it, but I don't have the patience to wait for someone to surrender,
Right.
And yeah, I just vibe much more with those kind of people, women and men, lately. You know what I mean? Like, I'm going to church this weekend for the first time in my life.
Oh, wow.
Jewish, like my ancestors will be angry at me, but I'm quarter Irish. My grandma's side of my mom, so genetically I'm not Jewish. My grandma converted. I don't care. Jesus was Jewish. And I just vibe with them, and I got into spirituality and religion, the Bible here in America with the New Testament, much more because of reggae music. I know every chapter in the New Testament I know from reggae music,
That's true.
And English is my first language, so it's much easier for me to read the Bible in English, And I vibe with these people much more, Flag number 2 is have a good relationship with her father. That's all I got. Even just like talking to, getting to know someone, like, oh, their parents are together. Like, if the parents are divorced, even that's like pretty much a flag, because my parents are divorced, and trying to set up a family with two people who don't have good role models, that's like, it's a challenge, I've been there, and it's like, I don't want to go back there, you know what I mean? I'd rather not than try to make it work with another person. It's like, let's go to Arkansas. Well, we don't have GPS and none of us never been there. I don't even know how to spell Arkansas.
That's good to set new parameters though for yourself, you know what I mean? Because, it's all about what good is knowledge if it's not applied, it's not wise. There's no wisdom in that. There's no growth in that, at the end of the day. So you got to test these things out in your real life application as you present outward. You know what I mean? That's the beauty of it. That's what we're here to do.
Exactly. Yeah, man. I mean, there's 8 billion of us out here, and the right one's gonna come. You might have a few wrong ones on the way. One of my mentors has 30 kids from 24 different mothers. And
has what?
30 children from 24 different mothers.
Wow.
And he's one of my closest friends in the world. He's 70 something. Yeah. And this guy, he's like big time gangster, had hundreds of people killed, but he looked out for me till this day more than my parents do, and he taught me about God more than anyone, and it's like, and he's happy. He's one of the happiest people I know, because he provided for all these kids, and he just followed his heart, like, you find these women that want a baby from you but don't want you around. You know, like my baby mama, one of the first things she asked me is like, "Are you one of those Rastas that has a bunch of kids and disappears?" I'm not like, no, not at all. I'm not that guy at all. That's like, you know, but that's probably what she wanted.
Right.
You know?
Right. That comes out right away. It's like,
subliminally, the things that we
Yeah.
fear the most are the things that we actually need the most. You know?
Very true.
And the next third flag is you have to have like a job, you know? I don't expect you to be even 50-50, you know what I mean? But there's a lot of girls out there that they just don't want it. They don't want to work, you know what I mean? They want a man to take care of them, which is natural, but it's like, it's putting a lot of pressure on you, and you need to know that, hey, if I get injured, you know, or something happens to me, or if we get robbed, or whatever happens, that you can also bring some food onto the table.
Yeah, you want to know that there's a partnership element.
Yeah, but most of the girls today, not most, I don't want to say most, but a lot of girls today, ever since COVID, has a big shift in that with, you know, Instagram, OnlyFans, Tinder, they're all the same app, just different designs, pretty much. Different interfaces.
Yeah.
You know, if a girl looks good and she has more than 1,000 followers, then she's getting indecent proposals every single day. Come to Miami for the weekend, come to Hawaii for the weekend.
You did any modeling before?
Yeah, you know, and it's easy, you know what I mean? It's like, so,
I get these.
I can't judge, you know what I mean?
Right,
I got
yeah.
offered money for sex, and I took it.
Yeah.
You know,
There's
like
a
some
difference
girl
between
paid
judging
you know?
somebody just outright off of their life and having a preference for what you want to engage and bring into yours.
Mhm.
You know?
Yeah, yeah. But it's like, it's a tough battle, you know, because you want a girl who's visually appealing,
Yeah.
but how can you judge? If you had 10 girls hitting you up every single day, offering you trips around the world, you
Yeah.
know what I mean? I don't know if you could say no to that. I don't think I could.
I've like fabricated, not fabricated, because it's not like I'm lying or anything like that, but because like my friends are like, oh, try this dating site or something. I'm not trying this dating site, you know, I don't want it, you know. But I get approached, and then I'll engage someone for friendship or whatever, and then it, you know, let's say like the start of her and I being, you know, friends and just like happenstance. I've had situations like that where two girls wanted to like take it further and like, you know, they're like, shit, I vibe with you, this is, you know, cool shit. And I like downplay certain, like, you know, almost like set a disclaimer. Like, oh, you know, I travel a lot. And, you know, almost saying it that way as opposed to, you know, I have this, which I feel for myself is just a dynamic, free life, which I love. You know, but I don't throw in the anchors like, oh, well, you know, I live in the wilderness a lot and I travel a lot and this, that, and the other. But, you know, I ain't got to say that I own an apartment complex out here and I do this shit for the movies. You know what I mean? Like, I sort of more downplay it to almost, and maybe that's wrong. I don't know. I haven't sorted that out yet.
But
You know what I mean? Insofar as, because I don't really see right or wrong in certain things. Sometimes they just are what they are in that regard and in that situation. But it's almost to not have to engage any further in saying,
maybe this will develop into something more
Yeah.
serious.
yeah.
But that's
yeah.
something that, as someone who's been traveling man since from 18 till 33, San Diego's the longest time I stayed in one place,
For
3
how long?
years.
Oh, really?
I never stayed nowhere for more than a year.
Oh, wow.
And that's something that would make girls like really into me, even though they wouldn't have been so into me because of that scarcity and like,
Right.
oh, I want to, it's like a challenge, you know what
Yeah.
I mean?
That's what I'm saying. I don't know if that's having the opposite effect. Like, oh, I sleep in my truck when I'm out here. You know what I'm saying? Like,
Yeah.
and I don't know if that's just because now there's like a new sort of appeal to that kind of thing, like the van life and the travelers, the nomad, the guy who builds and shit. You know what I mean? Like, I don't know.
No, it's scarcity. When something is scarce, it's more valuable. You know, if it's like, if you're, you know, perfect example. I'm an Uber driver. You know. Any girl that gets into my car, most of them know that they can take me home if they want to.
Right. Oh, right.
You know what I mean? And like, it's up to them, you know. Women run the world. We were saying this earlier, you know. It's like, I never managed to get a girl that I wanted. I'm like, oh, I want that girl, and I'm gonna get. It was always like the other way around.
Yeah. Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, I am, I guess, picky too. I mean, I like what I like, you know, and I don't make any frills or fuss about that either. But I think when it comes down to just myself and like, I don't
Yeah, the
present.
microphone.
Oh yeah, I didn't know we were still recording. Yeah, I thought. Like presenting myself out. You know what I mean? It's just like it's organic and natural in that sense. Almost to where it's like I would always have this picture in my mind where and I worked nightclubs for a long time. I had like a nightclub security company that I ran and owned and all this kind of stuff, and it was just used to this sort of fleeting weird lifestyle. But I'm like, I just want, like, I was in a relationship for like 11 years, right? She was really good. She was a refugee, African, Ethiopian, you know, beautiful girl, just as innocent and beautiful, you know, and that's what I love. I don't like American women per se, you know, and maybe that's just a hang up that I need to get past in my own.
I don't think so.
In my own
Sorry, American girls, you suck.
You know, and I'm traveled myself too. You know what I'm saying? So I've experienced, you know, a lot of the world and just have decided that I just don't want certain things. So I sort of downplay myself to a degree.
Well, that's something that's like a big topic right now because a lot of men are just like sick of American women. It's like becoming like totally open and honest, and American girls don't like it at all. I know that, but it's like, why is this happening? You know, like a lot of people I've talked to, they're saying the same thing. I don't want to be with an American girl. I thought it was just because I didn't grow up here that I didn't want to, but I see that American guys are all going to Mexico or the Philippines or Brazil, and what do you think that is?
That's what happens when you are anchored in a hyper-capitalistic, consumer-based society. It's going to be what it's going to be, and then you go ahead and sprinkle in some of the created systems as feminism and as this, you know, it's a degradation of nature. Right, and how things sort of naturally respond. So when you're looking at like maybe these countries that are a little bit less developed, it's funny because you'll see this sort of romanticization of the West also from these different places, but it's not experienced in whole. You know what I mean? So maybe there might be some appeal to that, because I've seen that too when I've gone like overseas and stuff in the military, and you know, typically like older white dudes, you know, they love the Asian women, more subservience and stuff like that. But that is also the thing that there's women. That don't mind living in at least like the classic sort of role of women. As we were all talking about earlier outside, you know what I mean? Because there is power in that and there's strength in that. But out here, we've seen that to look like weakness, you know what I mean? And that ultimately takes down both sides. It takes down the men and the women, actually. It's all it's doing is creating division and separation. It's like, how do we even fucking, you know, put these things together now? Nobody knows. They're just sort of the blind leading the blind, and then, you know, that sort of oversaturated media markets into the consumer-based ideal. That's all we see, you know. It's like slim pickings, as I like to call it.
Yeah. I mean, that's it. The feminism, because I grew up feminist, in a feminist household, with a feminist mother. All men ain't shit, and I became Captain Save-A-Ho because of that. I tried to be the good guy who is different from everybody else and treats all women with respect, and all the time.
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes women want their hair to be pulled and to be smacked and choked. More often than not, from my experience, you know?
Yeah.
And, sorry, but,
That's
you
true,
know.
though. That's true. See, that's the kind of shit that would freak me out, too, until I grew into it a little bit. But before, exactly what you're talking about, too, like that in itself, that sort of, who knows how innate that is in women. I mean, maybe we can go back to the caveman days, and that's how men approach women in the first place, or something like that. But something was implanted in that behavior, too, through pop culture and media and stuff like that, to where it is almost like this sense of wanting to be equal and be able to withstand or tolerate these, you know what I mean? This more hardened sort of approach, you know? And I remember, being in a situation with a woman, and it actually just turned me off. Not because, like, if that's my partner or something like that, and we sort of vibe that way, and that's an element, and that's part of our dynamic, you know what I mean? Like, there's softness, there's a healthy balance and ebb and flow of it.
It's like makeup sex.
Yeah,
After a
yeah.
fight, that's like the best thing ever.
That's all. But if you just want me to throw a collar on you every time, and then just,
Yeah.
that's something that's sort of pushed in there into the zeitgeist.
Yeah, I mean, I honestly think that feminism is not about equality.
No.
If it was about equality, it'd be called equalism or something like that.
Right.
Because it's about the feminine, being above. It's not about whatever. And it has a lot of, like, trauma in there. And we're told that the patriarchy and the men have been abusing women for thousands of years, and a lot of it's true, yeah. I'm sure a lot of men were abusing women for thousands of years, but also some of the most vicious people on this planet have been women. We had the Queen of England run this planet for the last 100 years, and look where we're at right now. We had Cleopatra, who had 2 of her siblings assassinated. Then she married her brother when he was 11 years old and poisoned him when he was 15. One of the greatest queens of all time, And it's just really sad to watch how everyone is just like not comfortable in their own skin. That's what it comes down to.
The traits that are heralded in women are the traits that are demonized in men. Right? It's an interesting thing how that works, but we know how that, that comes to
like
be,
being sensitive and compassionate
and
in
vice
touch
versa.
with their emotions is bad for a man, and being a slut is bad for a woman, And I mean, honestly, we're wired totally different, Like women lose their sex drive around 50, something like that, 40 some women, and they can produce babies.
Mm-hmm.
My great-grandfather had a child, one of my favorite people in the world. She's like my dad's aunt, but she's pretty much like my age.
Mm-hmm.
He was 70 years old when he had a baby,
Wow.
with one of his caretakers.
Sponsored by Blue Chew. Everybody.
Was that a Viagra?
Blue Chew was,
No, they're from
This is a
Portugal.
joke
They had
that
their own
Jason
things.
has.
This was
Yeah.
40 years ago, man. But that's the thing, like, if we didn't have all these toxic foods, we probably wouldn't need Viagra.
Very true.
All this
Get
Diet
that
Coke
Irish sea
and...
moss.
Yeah, sea moss, garlic.
Yeah.
There's lots of...
That turmeric, that Ayurvedic push.
Exactly.
That's what I'm about to do with my diet. I gotta shift my diet because I fuck with Taco Bell a little bit too much.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah, Taco Bell and 7-Eleven cookies, player.
Okay.
$2 for
You're surprising me, man.
Yeah.
I don't fuck with none of that.
Yeah, I think that like for a while I've been like sort of like offsetting one with the other because I'm like, okay, I'm gonna get up in the morning, I fucking sprint, work out in nature, ground, meditate, swim in the ocean, beam and boom. So it's like I can have this Taco Bell and I can have these cookies and these cigarettes and shit like that.
Mm-hmm.
But now it's like not even like my body that's telling me anything because I'm fine in that regard. But it's always just that it's more intuitional. It's just when I go into meditation and stuff, it's like what type of clarity could be brought about by doing all of the things.
Yeah.
Double down, stop fucking around. You know what I mean? So I feel like I'm at that weird precipice where I'm like, where I'm about to go hard on some shit.
Yeah,
You know?
I mean,
I'm
you
excited
can't.
about it.
You need some kind of poison. You see, I'm
Yeah.
vaping and I do some stuff that I'm not supposed to be
Yeah,
doing,
yeah,
you know,
yeah.
not necessarily on the substances, you know,
Yeah.
just like communication wise and you know, like just like listening to music that I wouldn't listen to because I thought it was defiling, you know, like I love trap music nowadays,
Right,
you know what I
right.
mean? Like, turn your click up, dog. Turn your bitch up, dog. You know, like, I don't believe in
Sonically
that.
appealing, yes.
You know, but it's like, and now I'm learning as I'm getting older that, like, yeah, bitches ain't shit but hoes and tricks. They were right all along.
Right all along. What the fuck?
You know?
And if you don't know, now you know.
Yeah.
Nigga.
I met this girl yesterday. Incredible. I picked her up from church. And like we prayed together, we fell in love in that car and I asked her and then she said like her husband something,
Oh.
and then I'm like, okay,
Yeah.
cool. And I told her like, I'm not gonna lie, I was super disappointed to hear that she had a husband. And she's like, oh, well, he loves me so much, you know?
He loves me so much, huh?
And he's in the Navy, and he provides that security.
Oh.
And that's what women want more than anything, you know what I mean? Doesn't sound like she loved him so much.
Yeah,
you know?
yeah. Oh, he loves me so much, that's what she led with?
You know what I mean? And,
Yikes.
but, you know, I'm happy for her, because he can provide her with the security that I can't.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And it was just like, yeah, that's a whole nother topic that we should wait on another time, you know, because I'm still not sure about the whole polyamory thing.
Yeah, I'm 43 and I've had 5 serious relationships.
Mm-hmm.
Only. That's because one of them 11 years, I think, but 43, 5.
I'm 2.
Oh,
I'm
really?
40.
Okay.
I'm 7 and 7.
Yeah, and I've been celibate too for a hot one.
How long?
For a hot one.
When?
We're like on and off though for after part of that 11 years relationship, like I want to say like the last fucking 2 years of it I was celibate.
Mm-hmm.
I mean not by choice, I was just sort of less just sort of falling out of love kind of thing and then just sort of distancing.
Yeah.
And I had a partner, I won't say her name, but you know her actually.
Okay.
For a spell, yeah.
Not too
It
many
can only
people.
be, yeah, you know what I
Okay.
mean?
Hey, and she's a great person.
And it was
That's who I
turbulent
thought
and
it was.
beautiful, and fun, and we were both learning, and I was like, you know, in this space. So yeah, I've gone through like, you know, first was like 2 years after my relationship, then another 2 years between that, and then now, like over a year. So, yeah. Yeah. I've been
Yeah.
you know, retention too. Sometimes, you know, there's draws, and that's not to say I practice it at a hard level to where I'm just like no. I'm just saying I have opportunities and I'm like, you know, definitely, you know, I don't want to.
Yeah, man. No, I mean, that's all
and,
right. I'll open the can of worms. What I wasn't going to talk about earlier. So, I was very like strict, kind of religious Rasta, you know, and then my ex became a stripper. She didn't want to work all these years. I said, you have to work, and she became a stripper, and I was very judgmental, you know, and I'm like, I need to go to a strip club to see what this is all about. You know? I don't want to be so judgmental.
yeah, just research.
And so I go every once in a while, and I just hang out with the girls and talk to them, because the ones that aren't afraid of me are pretty cool people. You know what I mean? And I don't, you know, I'm not, I'm too smart to get involved sexually with them, but
Mm.
it's just like street people, we get along better. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
I grew up on the streets. They grew up on the streets. We have more of a common kind of language, you know what I mean?
Do you feel that also that might be filling some kind of weird subconscious void in some way too? That you're there, I mean, there's obviously a level of gratification. That's why we do things as humans, because
Mhm.
there's a payoff at the end of that. Maybe we can
Yeah.
dig into that next time though. But,
Yeah,
you
no. Honestly, it's like I'm trying to make myself stronger and more resistant.
Got it.
Because,
Oh, okay.
because I had girls that I
Okay.
didn't want to fuck that managed to get me in bed, you know, and then regret
Right.
it. That's why one of the main reasons why I quit drinking.
Right.
So I'll go to Hong Kong in TJ. I was there twice in the last month, and I walk in there and I act like I'm in a regular club. I don't make no eye contact.
Huh.
There's 100 bombshell girls there, all naked, and I
That's
just
it.
walk through. I don't drink no alcohol. I'm just there listening to the music, talking to my friend, having a good time.
Yeah.
And most of the girls, they can tell that I'm broke also. Those girls are they're very good at reading people.
They know how to skate.
You know, they look for the
Oh,
older
shit.
white men, big fat.
Yeah,
that's
yeah,
The
yeah.
older, the whiter. That's what I was
Yeah.
told, you know?
Yeah.
And they come up to me, and I know a tiny bit of Spanish.
Uh-huh.
And the first thing I say, Nunca pago para sexo. I never pay for sex.
Oh wow. Wow.
I don't want to waste your time. And then they're, oh, you're funny, you're cute, and we just hang out and we talk about mythology and all these girls, like some of the ones that want to talk and hang out, those the cool ones, like I got them on Instagram. It's like one girl is like a artist, she makes like stickers and anime and like, you know, and it's just like, we need that interaction, you know. And then I took my buddy there, it was his birthday a couple days ago. And like, I said, no, we're not drinking and we're not paying for sex.
Mhm.
And he had these two girls all over, because in Mexico they got the rooms up there.
You said we, right? You said we're not doing this. You ever? My friend, every time I say that, my friend has this joke. He was like, "Who's we? You got a little mouse in your pocket? Who's we? Speak for yourself."
Yeah, man. No, but like these two girls, they were like dragging him up, and he's looking at me like,
Oh,
you know,
yeah.
like he just bought a car the same day. He didn't have that money, and he didn't
Mm.
want to. He's also on the celibate sober path,
Yeah.
and it's like, for me, women is the hardest drug on the planet. It's like a
Mm.
drug, you know, and just looking at a woman in the eye, you get some oxytocin
Oh yeah.
action
I love a
coming up,
beautiful woman. Yeah.
and you
I can
just,
appreciate that.
you just-
for sure.
you know, so going in there and managing to come back across the border with all my fluids,
Yeah.
like
Intact.
supercharged. The next day, someone just calls me up, hey, I need a website. You know?
Yeah.
It's just magic. There's no other word for it. You know,
Yeah.
it's their magic wand. You know what
Yeah.
I'm saying?
Start typing it out with your dick.
Yeah. It's their obelisk, you know?
Talent. Yeah.
That's
yeah,
an
I get it.
obelisk, you know? It's not a
Yeah.
coincidence, you
Yeah.
know?
Straight up.
And I'm on the no-fap thing. Every
Good for you.
month or two, I have a wet dream. Sorry, my friend. But, you know, and the porn is the real problem. You know what I mean? If I
Yeah.
watch porn, and I'm watching it again tomorrow.
Hmm.
You know, and the next day, because it's right in my hand, and you have
Yeah.
infinite options.
Power in the palm of your hand.
It's
No
cheap.
pun intended. Yeah. No porn intended.
Oh,
Ready to
man.
wrap up?
Yeah, bro, this was lots of fun.
Oh, man, I had a blast,
I'm gonna
man.
remember this for the rest of my life, bro.
Absolutely. Thank you so
I'm
much.
very thankful that we met and that
Yeah.
you came to do this first
Thank you,
podcast
man. I
with me.
appreciate it.
There's nobody else I'd rather do this with.
Oh, appreciate it, man. This is gonna be a good time, and then and many more to come, right?
Yes,
We're gonna
sir.
mess around, yeah.
Yeah, man.
I'm gonna-
And thank you to our producer.
Thank you
again.
so much.
It was a pleasure.
Somebody has our producer here. Yeah, learning a lot. We're all learning, and you're helping out quite
What's
a
your
bit,
name
too.
again? I'm so bad with names.
Lamia.
Lamia what?
Yes. Zar.
Zar?
Yeah.
Shout out Lami Azar, the greatest podcast producer I've ever had.
Bing, bang, boom.
We could not make this happen without her. The cameras would have gone off 10 times.
Yeah,
We'd
seriously.
be out of the frame.
We would have been here just talking shit.
Yeah, we would
just losing material, losing content. Great stuff. I mean, all still worthwhile, but just no visual record of it.
Yeah, no, it's better for the people because we talked about most of these things already when we met.
Yeah, we can't hide our money makers, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, money makers. This show is sponsored by Juggle Media.
Bam.
I help small businesses make money.
Can I go throw a plug out there?
Yeah.
Visual SD in San Diego, right? That's a shop that you didn't get a chance to go to.
The shop, yes. Shout out Visual SD.
North Park.
The Jacob Center, this amazing place that taught me how to run my business and provide us with the studio, all this beautiful equipment. Alex Waters and Maury. I don't know if you guys want to be associated with this podcast, but you are. I love you guys.
There it is.
Thank you all for listening and watching. Yeah. Stay blessed.
Stay blessed. Yeah, let's go.
Let's go.
This was amazing. Oh my goodness.
This was awesome,
Appreciate
man.
it. Yeah.
It was really, I couldn't tell that it was your first podcast. I mean, like you're awesome with redirecting and really providing enough information to substantiate.
It's because you guys, and it's just like staying in the moment, Just everything in life is just staying in the moment. Whether if it's you're playing soccer or shooting a gun or having sex or whatever it is, you stay in the moment and God,
That's when you give it everything,
Oh, I got tacos too now.
And look at that.
Ooh, baby, I like it raw. Yeah, baby, I like it raw. Ooh, baby, I like it raw. Yeah, baby, I like it raw.
What's up, guys? This incredible podcast is sponsored by my company, Juggle.media. We help small businesses get big. So if you run your own business or want to start a new one, just hit me up, 619-777-8973, or log on to Juggle.media, and let's get the ball rolling, yo.